I'm David Marsh. Welcome to Exploring the Human Journey.
Exploring the Human Journey. When I am using clarity in a life coaching session, what it is we're doing is going deep within to let out ideas that we may have in our subconscious that we want to do. We know there's something there, but we haven't gotten clear with it. So it's a matter of asking a lot of questions, a matter of taking some breaths, taking a pause, asking what does it feel like? What would it sound like? Using metaphors is one of the things that I do in my life coaching. The bottom line is walking away having insight as to what it is that we can do to help others in this journey of life. Creativity can be in every part of our life. People think that they're not creative. I hear that so much from people when they find out that I'm an artist, I'm a musician. Oh my gosh, what don't you do that's creative, right? We all are creative. It can be creative how we hang our paintings up in our house, how we set our kitchen. Creativity can be how I space a note from one note to another, which makes up a chord, writing a melody. Creativity is everywhere if we just open our eyes. To me, cadence is repetition, and it's getting honed in on your rhythm of life within yourself, and then going forward and being consistent with that. One of my mentors, Anthony Robbins, says that repetition is the mother of perfection. And that quote actually inspired cadence for me, because what I found is when I became consistent with my practice, I became a better musician. I became a better vocalist, speaking out in public, even my own diet. When I eat consistently, I always feel better. So cadence is the key. What I'm learning in my human journey is there's always an opportunity to learn something new, to find strength within, and the tests that we have in life only make us stronger.
Awesome, Mary. Thank you.
Thank you for having me here. Thank you so much.
So much fun. I got to see your space. I got to see the studio. You're a musician. Now that resonates with me. I'm a songwriter. I'm a musician.
Incredible musician, and your piano playing.
Well,
oh my gosh.
Well, I'm quite amazing, aren't I?
You are.
But that space of music is so fun. It's so creative. And I liked when I was looking at your website and your homepage, you've got clarity, creativity, and cadence. And we kind of, we built a theme off of that. The creativity, that really resonates with me, because I think that's the big thing in life, is just being creative and co-creating.
Yes.
Such as you and I are co-creating an episode together.
Right.
Talk to me about the creativity piece. And I love the way you said, some people think they're not creative. They're like, oh, I'm just a house mom, or I'm just a guy that goes to work in data
Exactly.
entry. Tell me about that perspective.
Sure. Well, I've heard that from people when I perform quite a bit, when I'm doing music performing, and or if people have seen my artwork. That's a response for somebody that's not in the arts field per se.
Yeah.
And they don't look at everything that they are doing with their life is an act of creation.
Yeah.
In fact, communication with the divine, that is inspiration, and we have inspiration when we have creativity. So when we are creating, we are having that inspiration. It's coming from the divine, it's coming through us. It might be there within our subconscious, or maybe we might be feeling it coming through from the heavens. Some people just download music.
Okay, now
in a second.
To that point, there's been times when I'm a piano player and I'm like in this vein, and I'm like, ooh, I don't know where this idea came from, but boom, do you get those feelings?
Exactly.
It's like tapping into universal consciousness.
It might just come through all of a sudden, like in a case where I might have been playing, like you just explained, or it could be, I could be coming out of a meditation, and all of a sudden, boom, I hear the whole song, chorus, bridge, whatever the pattern might be.
Yeah.
I could have been in a space where I was just resting for a little bit, and then I get up. When we are closer to that REM state, I believe that's when that channeling can come through. And for those of us that meditate and do grounding exercises, I do believe it comes easier. That critic gets out of the way, so to speak, to let that come through freely, without judgment, criticism, and those kind of things that get in the way of creativity.
Yeah. So you're creative in the music process and the writing process. You're creative in the art process of painting and drawing.
Yes.
You're creative in the conversation, the writing. I mean, creativity can come in different forms. It doesn't have to be like, oh, I'm an artist, that's how I'm creative.
That's exactly right. And getting back to that thought process of, oh, I'm not creative. Like, for example, some people get into making recipes and they put on a spread. They're not a chef per se as far as a business, but that is their outlet for creativity. It might be gardening. It could be how you put your decorations on the walls and such like that. Even thinking about how you're going to raise your children, that is a creative process. Yeah. And when we allow ourselves to be in touch with the divine, the creativity, again, it flows more and more.
Oh, I love that. So you find that space where you're in connection, and that's where that creative source is. So you don't have to be someone that says, oh, I'm an amazing artist or a musician or whatever that idea is for an art piece. You can simply be someone who's, I'm creative by connecting with my divine source.
Exactly. Now, some of us are afraid to get really close because to what we want to be authentic, because some of us have had situations in life that haven't really been in our best service for ourselves, and so that we can be the best for others. So again, getting still, and that's where life coaching comes in to get. We'll talk about the clarity in a little bit, but you do have to be clear when you want to do something. Okay, I'm going to buy a house. How can I buy a house? What are the steps to do that? You have to be clear to master something. And as I mentioned before, Anthony Robbins says, repetition is the mother of perfection. And so we have the channeling coming through. Some people call it channeling, or just the allowing of the creativity to come through. That is, of course, the piece that the critic is not there. Then you have the discipline. And Will Smith, I just saw one of his videos that was talking about discipline. Discipline, you have to take the time to understand what it is that you want to do. You want to understand the steps that you need to do to execute anything, in terms of if you're going to have a piece of art, or if you're going to have a piece of music that you want to write, that you want to play, that you want to interpret. Some people use music as a means of interpretation, and that's their creative piece. They're not an actual writer like you are or like I am, but a lot of singers, for example. There's many singers that don't write songs, but their creative piece is in the interpretation of the original piece.
No, that's so good. You can have, I've always thought about that, to perfect it, you have to have repetition, you have to have practice. I have a natural gifting for music, but I have to increase a level of proficiency, a level of talent, if you will. Put those two together, so then that gifting can now shine along with the practice that you take to develop that talent. And I've known a lot of people that can play an instrument and they're very talented at it. They might not be necessarily gifted at it. Some people can just hear music and just begin to create and play. Other people have to have words on a notepad and be able to play the notes. But you have to have that practice. So you might be like, I'm really creative. I don't have to practice at my craft. You may not be able to experience the fullness of that creativity, because all you ever learned was a C chord. It was like, well, there's other chords.
So many inversions of the C chord as well, right? So it does take the time, and time is, in that respect, as far as mastering the arts, that is on your side. When you invest the time in yourself to master a guitar or the piano, taking voice lessons, and also working with a coach to determine what is right for you, because within the music industry, there are people that are just hired guns that actually tune guitars, that go on the tours with the national, even local acts. There are people that are the sound engineers live or in the studio. There's so many different facets of a production that it's not for everybody to be out in front of the audience. And so that's another piece as well.
I know. Everybody wants to be behind the mic or behind the instrument. It does take that collaborative group. You've seen that. Now, you started playing music when you were a young person, and I love the photos that I saw at your house. There are these beautiful black and white 8x10 portrait photos. That's what we did in those 80s years.
I know.
You played early 80s? Is that when you were doing rock music?
I did. Well,
stuff?
My actual first instrument was I took a big potato pot, you know, for chili or beans or potatoes, and I turned it upside down. My brother gave me my first lesson on playing beats, you know, on a potato pot.
Oh,
and
nice.
for you parents out there that have young ones, you can use a table, you can use a potato pot. The potato pot is cool because it's kind of like a bongo. You can put it in between your legs.
Yeah.
And so he would be jamming, and he was helping me feel the groove and feel that cadence and feel the rhythm. So you had a brother that was a
musician.
He was a musician, not only a very well-crafted songwriter. He played a 12-string guitar, Todd Kelly. He was signed with ESP Disc Records in the 60s.
Wow, nice.
And
so he already had that flow going, and so he passed it on to you.
And my mother as well loved music. And one of my great-grandmothers was a concert pianist. And so it's in the blood.
Ooh, yeah.
But his sharing with me about the beauty of love with music and how it can be a place for people to feel better and how gifting that is for people, that was one of the best gifts he gave me.
Yeah. What's your main creative instrument that you play?
My main instrument is the bass guitar, and my first boyfriend played the bass guitar. You're probably wondering, if my brother played guitar, why did I end up in the bass? So I was helping his band, and I learned everything about the backside of the music, which is a wonderful thing to do. If you
because he needed a bass player.
No, I was listening to him while he was on stage. He was the main guy playing the bass, but I did their lights, their sound. I was their roadie.
How old were you at this time?
Geez, well, I was young when I started dating him. I was only 14 years old.
So you were playing bars and clubs, and you were the sound person.
I was a sound person. I wasn't playing till I was 19.
Yeah.
And then the first band that I got in was Fraulein. And that was put together by a booking agent who handpicked people he had heard me play. Oh. I was actually selected for bands several times to be in different bands. And then from there, you know, there was, I was in... let's see, Don LaRue, we were together for a very short time, but we were on the radio, all kinds of things were happening.
What city was this where you grew up?
Don LaRue was in Indiana and Chicago.
Okay.
I'm from Chicago, so my first bands were in the city, playing in some of the clubs where the Smashing Pumpkins, which became famous, a lot of other famous bands. Initially, at the time I was playing in Chicago, there wasn't a lot of attention in Chicago. It was more like Seattle or New York or LA. If you want to be big, you have to go to those areas. But then the Smashing Pumpkins got signed, and more artists were getting found in the Chicago area. So then the people that signed those bands, the record labels, and their title is called A&R, Artist and Repertoire is what it stands for.
Yeah.
They started going out to Chicago. And we were playing big venues. The main band that we did a lot with was called Faces of Emotion. And we released our own albums. At the time, it started with cassettes. We were doing singles. You know, I'm kind of aging myself here, but we did do a vinyl before vinyl went out, and we were on the radio. We were getting a lot of attention with the band. We were way ahead of our time. We had actually written a verse for the song Aquarius, an additional verse, because there was the emergence going on at that time. And I was watching one of the shows with Astarius Miraculous. And he was saying he used to go to the occult bookstore in Chicago. And I just, so like, wow, what a small world when I heard him say that, because Phyllis and I used to always go to the occult bookstore. And we might have even been crossing paths at the same time, right? So,
that's so cool.
And he was one of the teachers in my master Reiki teacher training. So I just like, I have to tell him that, because I didn't know that when he was teaching the class. I thought, how fun is that, right? And we were going to this store and we were learning so much. And then we found an astrologer, master astrologer, who still teaches, Peggy Kay. And we did an astrology chart for the band. And we were doing affirmations on the walls. This was all like before it became real big, right?
Wow, that was conscious and forward thinking.
What really was at the time. We were way ahead of our time, although we did have a big following. We were playing we played the Park West, which is like 1,000-seater venue.
Nice. We
had these props made. They were lights that were taller than I am, that looked like crystals. They were made out of plexiglass.
Wow.
And so we were way ahead of our time.
Yeah.
And we were doing great things. We were building our following and whatnot. Also during that time, though, I was challenged with losing my parents. My mom passed away just like 6 months before I started the band with Phyllis, who was my co-collaborator. We wrote a lot together, and we were partners in the business side of it. And then also during that time, my dad, a year later, he was diagnosed with the condition. So I was still doing it, but then, and we were making amazing strides. We went out to LA. We were looking at getting our songs in film and television. I was asked to stay there, but I made that choice, that life choice, not to, and to take care of my father, which to this day I don't regret, because you know, you only have one set of parents, is what I always say.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
So beautiful. But I knew that I had some talent there, because those things gave me affirmation. And so I'd like to share that, you know, for anybody out there wanting to do it, take note to the people, especially that aren't your friends, because your friends always want to support you.
Yeah.
They always want to say you sound great and all
you're
that,
amazing.
you know.
Yeah.
And that kind of thing. So when you see things happening and you know that these are people that don't even know you, then you know that you're onto something and people are getting touched. And I think that's what most of us in life want to do. Yeah. We want to be validated, and we want to touch others. And so performing a song that I've written is one of the means for me to do that, as well as being there for others to help facilitate their own growth and their own inner strengths and discipline, so that they can do what it is that they're here to do.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. I love that you give place to creativity. Even as the musician, I really resonate with that. Thanks for sharing that portion of your story. There is something so beautiful of having something in your head, a mindset of, I'd like to make this happen, and then seeing it happen. I mean, it could be something as creative as building a garden. Yes. I tried building a garden a couple years ago.
Oh, you did?
And I don't have that level of creativity. Everything I planted grew up and then died. So I was like, what? Well, it wasn't a passion of mine. It was just an experiment of mine. But when you have an idea, for me, if I have a song idea and I'm able to take that song idea and create music out of it that I can hear back to myself, that is the most satisfying thing.
That is.
To take that creative thing. And again, whatever it is, if it's, you know, art or buildings, furniture, or doing something. So I like that. You're able to give a presence to creativity. It's beautiful.
Absolutely. Well, one of the biggest keys in life is doing what we are passionate about. Oftentimes we, as individuals, get in jobs that it's really not our passion. We feel like we need to get a paycheck. We need to take care of our responsibilities and things like that. Or even just we might want to try at something like a garden. It wasn't your responsibility to do a garden, but you thought you'd try it. It's a good thing, too.
All my family would have starved, I'm telling you.
Hey, it's nothing like getting food from your garden, because you know what you put in there.
Yeah.
As far as pesticides and things like that, you know, these days there's so much talk about those kind of things. But if you're not passionate, then you're not going to have the same results, because that discipline is hard, and that patience, part of the piece is having patience to let it come to fruition, to understanding the steps and taking the steps to do it. And if you don't have that passion. Now, as soon as you started shifting to the music, one of the things we look for when we do coaching is the glitter in the eye.
Yeah,
and boom, I saw your sparkle in your eye, and I could see that.
Well, that's because it takes us into clarity. What is that passion? So give presence to that.
Well, first, for passion, we have to have a little bit of hope. And I have a song called Hope. And the reason why, a friend of mine, a musician friend of mine, asked me about that. Is it hope, really? You know, it takes more than hope, and it does. But the hope is the match that fuels the flame for passion.
Oh, I love it.
So you have to believe. You have to have hope. You can have passion, but if you don't have that belief and that hope, and it starts with hope. The passion is the fire that, like, it's like you're so excited. The passion is that first love, that flame, that butterfly that you feel. When you get something that you want to do and you go for it and you get accepted, whether it be college, you know, whether it be, I have a friend that just graduated that's going to be a teacher, and she found a new passion, my friend Cindy, and wanting to work with children. And later in her life.
Yeah.
You know, so we can find passion at any time in our life.
That's beautiful.
It's not that, oh, I'm in my 50s, I'm in my 60s or 70s. Perfect example is Louise Hay, who took something and created it much larger in life in her later years in her life.
Yep.
So it's finding that fire within us. Those flames are there sometimes in our subconscious. And that's where hypnotherapy and also life coaching and those kind of things help to activate those things that are there within us in our subconscious.
Yep.
Sometimes it's in our conscious, and and we feel that and excited about it.
Yep.
And sometimes we get in what they call a gap, and getting into a little bit of life coaching here, but sometimes...
Ooh, coach me up, let's go.
Okay, you want to do a little coaching session?
Whatever you got, I can get it. I need it.
Well, everybody's coaching session is different.
Yeah.
Okay, and some people come to the table with something that they already have planned in their mind. And even if you have an idea, a topic that you want to talk about in coaching, sometimes that can go into a completely different direction. It's not counseling. It's about getting clear with where you are today. Now, sometimes things from the past will come up if some of the things from the past are preventing some conscious stops for us. Whether it might be lack of self-esteem, lack of self-validation, or others' validation, those kind of things can get in the way. Who knows what is in the way? Everybody's different, you know. So I don't go into a session having expectations of what might be getting in somebody's way. I go in there saying, let's see what comes out. And I, as a coach, ask a lot of questions to get those things to come out. And then from there, we can do. So if you and I were to go into a session, we would start, we've already done some grounding here before we started talking today, but coaching starts with a grounding.
Yeah.
And as a transformational life coach, I always ask the other person, what's comfortable for you? Do you want to just speak something out to the universe for manifestation? Would you like to say a prayer? What's your religion?
So you're asking questions. I love that you're giving presence to that, because so many times we think of a life coach. I was an athlete when I was in school, and the coach just yelled at you and told you what to do. You have to do all this stuff.
Exactly.
So now I hear a life coach, I'm like, oh, I don't want somebody yelling at me, telling me what to do. That's not what it is.
No.
You're asking questions. You're saying, what is it that you...
It's an inquisitive place of being for the other person. Not like you have to do this.
Yeah.
Now, there is accountability, though.
Sure.
That's once you've gotten that clarity of what it is that you want to work on or create in the world, in the manifestation, whether it be a CD. One of my clients wanted to create a song and a book. So as somebody with the years of experience and mentoring, and I've had a management company, track management, I was managing several bands in Chicago. It's so easy to go into that mode. Do this, do that, do that. No, we hold the space. We let the client get that clarification to come from the subconscious.
Yeah. So you're asking questions of a person that allows them, basically you're giving them permission then to experience and explore.
Very much so. It's an exploration, and as your show says, life is a journey. You know, this is the journey. So part of this journey is exploring and experimenting. Yeah. And sometimes we try something and it's not for us. Now, some people will try this, and especially creatives. Creatives have a tendency, I know so many creatives, whether they're musicians or artists or videographers or whatnot, but many times we like to kind of, let me try doing poetry. Let me try, do I want to work with film? Do I want to do the healing? And sometimes people realize they can manage to intertwine because it's all energy.
Yeah.
But in a given 24 hours, we only have so many days. So there comes a time where you might have to put something on the shelf for a while if you're building a business to just focus on that. But it can be done. And I've known people that are not artistic that actually do make judgment on the creatives because they feel like they might be like, all over the place, you know, because they just have all these ideas coming to them. So what do they hone in first?
Yeah. So you kind of have to focus that down.
You have to
that resonates with me. I'm like, oh, I want to try this. I don't want to try that. Because, you know, I'm like, oh, there's a bunch of things I could do. Yeah, but what is the most optimal thing for what you would like to be doing? You know?
Right.
And I found that I could grow a garden if I spent a bunch of time, but I'm like, it's not my thing. I don't want to be a gardener. It's not my thing.
Right. Exactly. So that's, again, where the clarity comes in with getting the questions asked, where that will come out if you don't have that. journaling, sometimes you can get into an automatic flow if you journal every night and in the morning, and the night if you do it if after you've meditated, it might be a good time when you're more relaxed is what I'm trying to say. You can journal first thing in the morning, you're relaxed, but journaling if you do it repetitively, and this is something I did for quite a while, where it just becomes automatic writing and you just let whatever come out, that will get the nervous system into the place of being relaxed to let it go. Because not only do we have our past that can affect and the inner critic that can affect all the flow of getting clear with what we want and what we want to do, and how much do we want to do or how little, but we actually have issues with our nervous system. And in my trainings, because I've done a lot of different trainings, because as I had mentioned to you when we met privately, that I've had a lot of trauma in my life. So I've taken a lot of classes, I've taken extensive training. What happens when you've had a lot of trauma?
So your life hasn't been perfect in the bed of roses and never had any challenges. Oh, let me tell you how amazing my life. No, I've
had my big share of challenges, and it has been a lot. I've had an extensive amount of sexual assaults, and actually I've had 9 of them.
Wow.
And I've also had domestic violence more than once in many situations. It's not about those situations really what held me back from healing. It was the fact that there was more than one, and once you get something that becomes habitual, your coping skills become habitual. And so that's what happened to me, is that I would go into when I get nervous, and on occasion I'm still guilty of it now.
Wow.
But I've done so much work that it was the discipline that really was the frosting on the cake for my healing.
I love that. The discipline, and that
continued discipline.
Kind of the cadence,
yes,
if you will.
Yes, that's the cadence.
I love it.
And cadence in life is the key, really. Yeah. And also, getting back to the training, something I wanted to mention was that I had some training with a psychologist that gets into the neural pathways, and he was saying when you go into trauma, so we're supposed to have we have the back part of our brain, and then we have the executive skills up here. We have the mid part. Well, the back part is the cortex, and that's when you have fight or flight. That's where the neurons go. Okay. So when you've had repetitive fight or flight experiences, your neurons are used to going there. So even when you're not in a fight or flight experience, after a certain amount of repetition, it will happen where it can go here. And that's where mindfulness exercises, for me, has been key. And I've worked with clients where it's been key, because literally you have to retrain those neurons to not to go there if it's not a fight or flight situation. Yes, if you fall in the middle of the street and you're on a bike, you need that neuro because you need to get out of the street. But there are situations where it's not happening, but it might feel like it's happening. And that is where there's an illusion going on because of the neurons.
It's a story that we tell ourselves that something happened, but what's the story behind it? And so I create this thing that's bigger than it really is.
Right.
And then we go into that fight or flight. This person said that, which means this, and now I got to react this way.
Right. And in my mindfulness journey, I did a lot of different things to train my mind so that I can avoid going into that fight or flight, old, unserving coping skills. And also not feel bad about the time that I did do that. Because that's a big part of the healing, is to not feel guilty. I'm here right now. I have today.
I love that. Being kind and gentle to yourself.
Yes.
Allowing yourself to experience and explore.
Yes. And also know if there's a moment of time for myself, and I says to my clients, know that it took your lifetime to get to where you were, and so it will take some time to know. And it is going to take that discipline. When we talk about past in the present, and I learned this from Thich Nhat Hanh, it still is in the present.
Boom, right here.
So right there, if you are talking repetitively about the past, as I've worn the t-shirt, I realized, okay, that means I have to go to the past, not to dwell on it, but I've been suppressing it. I actually haven't been dealing with it. So in order to let it go and bless it and release it, I have to let it come out in a safe place And for anybody that's had an extensive amount as I have, I highly recommend them going to a mental health facility because those people are really trained in that type of thing. There are a lot of like coaches and Reiki masters out there that have also experienced journeys like myself that have learned from their own, that can teach as well from their own life experience. And when you've walked through you walk through the door, when you realize you have the key, that was one of the things. That was my mantra at one point in life was, I have the key. I have the hand. I can walk through that door.
Yeah, beautiful.
You know, but if you're not at that place yet, going to those resources, Impact Frontera, La Frontera Agency. I mean, I've had counseling my whole life, but I've never had counseling to the degree, because they work with two modalities, one of which is EMDR, which is eye rapid movement, and it's with a machine. And that, what it does is it brings you into an REM state while you're awake, with a safe space and a counselor that is trained in this therapy, that so if anything comes up that you were not aware of, that can come out. Also, the other thing is therapy that they offer there. Now, you have to be interviewed for these therapies. They don't just give them to everybody. I want to preface it with that. But the other therapy is called DBT, and there is a book out there. So anybody can Google that's interested in learning more about it. What they do is they go through the steps and the exercises in the book. And DBT is for dialectical behavior therapy. It was written for someone wrote this book for people that are borderline personality. But what they found in the mental health field is that individuals that have had a lot of trauma tend to use the same coping skills as people with borderline personality.
Oh, wow.
And what those new coping skills are in that book is a lot of mindfulness exercises. It's doing guided meditation, and that's why I love guided meditation. It's so helpful. And so I was actually doing these things before I took those therapies. So then when I took those therapies, it was a repetition. It was the cadence that was the frosting on the cake for me.
Wow.
So it was really great.
You're doing the work. You're delving into this human construct that we have of what it is to be alive. And you're looking for truth. Now, what I love is truth doesn't have to be, this is the truth, and if you don't do it, you're wrong. That truth can be, what is that thing that resonates for you? What is your truth?
Right.
And that, to me, was a new revelation, because I was given a religious context that said there's only one truth, and if you fail to meet that truth, then you lose. So I didn't really like that. But then I found out, well, no, it's a matter of finding, well, what is the truth for me? What is it that I want to experience? And that's a much more... it's a much more beautiful energy when you can say, well, this resonates for me. This feels good. This is what I feel I need to do. And it's something that's creative. It's beautiful. It's giving and sharing. How do you contextualize truth when you're talking with people, whether through life coaching or hypnotherapy? How do you integrate truth with a person in how they go about their life?
That's a great question. Well, one of the things I do is I ask them, what are they feeling when they are talking about something, especially if we pushed a button somehow. They've pushed the button. I've just been holding the space for it.
Yeah.
Something comes up and it's like, where is that hitting you? It might be in your stomach. Okay, what does that look like? Is it yellow? Is it red?
Are you combining chakras with that by any chance? Just something
in
different?
That particular point I did, but no, it just obviously, I'm right there to the gut, and that's what just came out of me right now. But every question is going to be different, because what it is I am being attentive, and my mindfulness skills have actually positioned me to do that.
Yeah, you hone it in.
You have to be present with that person. You can't not be thinking about, when I'm going out of the session, I have to stop at the gas station or whatever, or like when people are cooking and they're thinking about something else, or they're just, really sitting even in a conversation like we are. You're listening to me. Yeah. That prompted your question as a coach.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, I know, exactly. So it's, okay, if I'm seeing you move in a certain way and I'm being led to, part of what I do is I ask for the guidance to be led to.
So you were tapping into universal consciousness too.
I am, and I have my own guides. I have a chief Indian guide that came to me.
Cool.
He came when I was in a meditation training with John English at Celebrate Your Life, and he was teaching. Actually psychic abilities, which I've had since I was a little girl. I used to do seances with some of my friends in the neighborhood, and I've had that ability. And at one point, I shut it down because I got scared because I was working with a woman who was teaching psychic ability. So I know I have it. I've since learned not to be afraid of it, and I let my psychic intuition and my guidance from the divine. I asked Jesus to be with me. Keep 100% white light. I was raised Catholic, and I believe in the love that Jesus spread as far as his teachings and that. So when I'm asking these questions, I'm just totally being open to feeling the client and what is going to best serve them so they can best serve others. Because somebody that is taking the time to commit to a session, that's a first step right there. The very first session is the very first step. They are committing, they are saying yes to themselves. You know, they want to take themselves up a notch. They want to lift up, and I like to use music, musical notes, lift up, lift yourself up. What else can we do? Even if there are people that get coached that are very successful in life. There's always a new tomorrow. There's always something new we can learn, something about ourselves, something that we can be teaching to others and whatnot. So it's a matter of being still and asking questions. Now, once we get to that point, and that might take a couple sessions, right away, I always get ahas, even if I'm doing a mini session. Sometimes I will go to Gifts and Graces at the Southwest Institute of Healing Arts, where I took the life coaching program. I actually did that for 1.5 years. I was doing coaching. Then I hadn't been a Reiki master yet, but they needed Reiki practitioners, so they asked me to do that as well. After the Gifts and Graces presentation, which usually lasts about an hour, then they open the doors and they have practitioners that have gone to school there. And so I was doing that because I was so grateful for the program, and it's a tithing for the community. And I found that also in my own skills, it was disciplining me and allowing me a space to hone my craft when I first graduated from the coaching program. And people sometimes in 5 minutes can get an aha. Of course, if you're doing a full session could last, typically it's like 90 minutes. And the reason why I like to do the 90 minutes is because you're starting here, you're getting clear, then it's up leveling because you're getting these clarities. Okay, so then what else can we get? Are we ready do we have a goal? Do we want to start? You can start some goals in one session. And then from there, these goals are determined by the client. I ask the question.
Where do you want to go?
Where do you want to go? What do you want? What can you do today? What step? So let me ask you, is there something that you have been wanting to do that you haven't done yet? Like something you've thought about wanting to do that you haven't done.
I don't know, man. I jumped on it. Last year I wanted to become a scuba instructor, and so I had
great for you.
The opportunity to get trained and mentored by Kelly Fisher at Phoenix Scuba, and she showed me how to become successful to pass the test, and I passed the test, so I got to be a scuba instructor. This year, Casey Miller said, consider taking yoga teacher training, and I said, okay, and so now I'm in yoga teacher training and becoming a yoga teacher.
That's awesome.
So,
okay.
I'm trying to be expansive and not be held back.
That's awesome. But what's that? So now when somebody's response is like that, then what I say is, what is that? That's something I don't know. But then I say, okay, then let's pause. You're doing all these great things, and congratulations, that's awesome. But in your subconscious, there may be something that you're not aware of.
There is, I have within me something that I want to author. I want to write down, and I don't now have that comfortability or that skill set to say, oh yeah, I've written a book and here it is. But I know there's pieces and parts. So to me, authoring my journey is very important, but I don't feel like today I'm at that place where I'm ready to do that.
Okay, so that would be something to coach around, because then you may get clarity in the coaching session. And is it going to be a year from now? You might have already some commitments in place. Say for myself, when I started the Music and Art School, Ballet Institute for Creative Arts, I was given the opportunity, somebody asked me, would you do this for children because of your life experience? And I said yes, and it was an incredible, incredible experience. I knew I wanted to give at least 3 years. I had a business plan for 5 years. So what that meant is, okay, then I'm going to put these other projects on hold. I'm not saying I'm not going to do them. And a coach can help with that, and looking at the bigger picture of things. And I love to go like this, because in the bigger picture of things, when we get further out, then we can get clear on how further out is it. Is it 6 months that I'm going to start it? Is it a year I'm going to start it?
So you're kind of giving yourself a goal to shoot towards.
A time frame, then to go back and go backtrack. Because in order to start at ground level, you want to know. You don't just walk up a stairs to a door and open up a door. You don't know where that door is, right? If you're going to walk up a set of stairs and walk through a door, you want to know what's behind that door. And it makes your steps worth the while. Now, some people in this, especially the art type people, tend to just, well, let me try this, let me try that, let me try that, because they don't really have that end goal, and then they find out that that's really not what they want, or they might not want to spend as much time, and then they could say, okay, well, I might spend 70% time in working on doing my art. Then now for me, like I'm going to do, if I'm doing 70% art, well, then I only got 30% left of time. You know what I'm saying? So for you with your book,
squeeze everything in 30%.
So in terms of your book, it would be a session of sitting down and looking at, is it the time? Is that one of the things that is not allowing it to happen today? I have a friend who I met through the life coaching program, and she decided that through some sessions, I had some sessions with her, that she was having some stops. And then she said, that's it, I'm going to do it. And she did it in a weekend.
Oh, wow.
A whole weekend. And I've known of other authors that do it in a weekend too. So this is where the beauty of this, getting what's in the subconscious, when you can get that out, and it does come out through life coaching. Now the hypnotherapy, what I have found to be so successful for some people that I've worked with, is that when you get clear on how you see these end results, say for example, you have your book, you're going to have a book release. You've determined all of this. I'm not going to say your steps for you, but you've determined what that end is and what's going in with that.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Then, as your life coach and as somebody that is doing guided meditation, I write a script as it's actually happened for you. And then in our guided meditation, and that's where I use my crystal bowl. The crystal bowl is a sea crystal bowl, and I have a little story that goes with that. If I can share?
Please.
Okay. So I was taking the program, life coaching program at SWIHA, and I was also involved with the East-West Exchange. They're no longer open, but they had a fabulous yoga facility. And so what happened was the owner of the East-West Exchange and I and a mutual friend, we were putting together a festival. I was meetings for this event every week. So I became close with the owners of this facility, and they were doing events. They were doing all kinds of concerts and different types of events besides the yoga that they offered there. And so then what happened is one day he called me and said, I need your help. I need you to come and do sound, because he knew I had a music and art background, right? Well, I just said, I'm there. I didn't even ask what it was or whatever. Now, like 2 or 3 days prior to, oh no, it wasn't days, it was probably months, people kept asking me that would meet me at SWIHA that knew I was a musician, oh, do you have crystal bowls?
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, no, I have several different instruments.
But I'm a mean bass player, let me tell you.
I'm solid on the bass, and I know I could do that, and I have a good time with this. Especially,
they're like, well, that's nice, but we want a crystal bowl.
I know, we want to get a little relaxed. We don't want to rock out, right? So I go to do this session, and quite frankly, I'm sorry, I don't even remember who the artist was, but there was an artist from LA that had come and was on tour, and she had 25 crystal bowls. Okay. And they were all over the floor, and they were all so beautiful sounding. And when she was talking about them and how they work with the nervous system, I was like, I could feel it. I could feel it in my whole being. And I set intentions for myself, utilizing the power of those, the resonance that go out into the universe of these crystal bowls. Wow. She had Tibetan bowls. She had all different types of bowls. I went home that night and I'm like, I should get a crystal ball.
That's cool.
The next day, I get an email from Linda Bennett.
Yeah.
She said, my friend is selling this crystal ball. The beauty in it is, when I first was reading, I'm like, okay, I guess universe. And, I didn't even stop like, can I afford it? Can I not afford it? It was only $50. I mean, most crystal bowls are hundreds of dollars, even used. And so I knew that was an affordable price for me. And that was the universe saying, and God, this is time for you to be utilizing this in what you're doing in your life.
Beautiful.
I called her. She had it. I started using it. And the next thing I knew, I was led to use it with the guided meditation. And for those that of your listeners and readers and whatnot, many probably know about the chakras, but the root chakra is C. And that is like the main scale, as you know. We could talk about that a little bit.
I don't know what you're talking about. That's amazing. I just learned about the bijas, and my yoga instructor Golveg taught me about the bija sounds, the lum and the vum and the rum as you go up. I didn't know that each chakra had a note associated with it. Please tell me more.
So in a scale, there are 7 notes, and scales repeat. And the root chakra is the C, so it's in it. The chakras go up like the C scale. So the C is the root chakra, which is the grounding. And
Leo the pug's
and
fired
so
up.
for anyone that wants to get grounded, they can. You can get a tuner online. They have tuner apps that you can put on your phone or your tablet or laptop and whatnot. For people that don't know the C note, what it sounds like. You can get a keyboard online. I'm sure there's all kinds of things now.
Yeah, there's
that
a phone
you can
app
get.
that has a piano thing on it.
But if you have a keyboard at home
yeah.
and you're a musician or you have a guitar, you can play a C chord or find the C note on the guitar, and you could sing that C note. Wow. Okay, now that will help open up. I explain it as the chakras are like fan blades, and chakras come from India, and it's a movement. Okay, so what happens is, if this is sluggish, typically the areas that go with that note may not be as flowing as freely. Some people like to say, oh, it's closed. I've never, ever said that to anyone, because fans do stop, yes, but what I've experienced is it's a slowing down. People might have more anxiety and fear. And anybody that has had a lot of trauma, it's in your neurological system. Working on the root chakra is going to help with that. Wow. Because in order to let fear go, it takes work, it takes discipline, and this is an excellent means to work with the fear. It's the C note. Now, from the C note, you go up. And if you're working on opening up all of your chakras, you do have to be careful, and I'll get into that a little bit. But the next note is just like you were playing on the piano, C to D. Okay.
Now, is that a D major or a D minor?
That's D major. These are all major now.
Majors, okay.
Okay. So this is, and for those of your viewers out there that don't know about the major and the minor is on a chord, there's 3 notes, and in a C chord, it's C, E, and G. And that E, the third note, is a major, is the happy sound, is how I call it. So you go a half a step down on that third, and that's the minor. But these are all major.
Yeah, two whole steps above the C. Yeah.
And so
a step and a half.
When you're going to the D, you're in between those 2 notes. Yeah. When you're going up the scale, and the D is resonating with the sacral chakra, which is to do with desire. Now, it could be desire to move to a different country. It could be desire to have a loved one in your life. It could be the simple desire of, and the not simple, but the complex desire of loving yourself. Though that's where that resonates in. It's also dreams. There's so much there. And as we continue to open that up, to let that open up, and that also is anything that's in your subconscious. If you want to get your desires out, you can work with the sacral chakra, which again is the D note. Now, if we continue to go up the chakras, and it's just like the piano, a scale, starting on the C note. So the E note is the solar plexus, and that gut feeling. And at one point, I haven't done it lately, but I was doing these chakra with the guitar and singing the notes where we were just singing ah, because ah is so sacred.
Yeah.
And anybody can do that at home, or if they can get an instrument or find one online. That E is going to open that up where, you know, you're being more receptive. Now, we want to keep these fans going, and many have spoken about the Kundalini rising. When you use the notes to open up all these chakras, it will continue to flow open each chakra. So you're here at the solar plexus chakra, and then you're going into the heart chakra, which is actually the color green.
Beautiful.
And using color with the notes is even more powerful. And so when, again, anybody that has had trauma, even if you haven't had trauma, to be of service to others is to really open our heart without fear. So we want all of our chakras open to receive love. You know, we have to have the heart chakra open. Our throat chakra is the next one up. Oh, the heart chakra, I'm sorry, did I say the F note?
Yep, so you'd be on an F.
So that's the F.
Piano players hitting this one.
Right. And so that F note, again, you want to resonate that sound and sing it. And if you're hearing a note, I was wanting to get into a vocal here, but
yeah, I know,
you know, some people can't sing if they're thinking it's too high. if they can get a piano that's online, if that F note is too high, for some men it might be too high. If we're at middle C, they might want to go lower to the lower F.
Yeah.
So if that's too high, don't worry. You can go to what they call lower octave. And of course, anybody can get in touch with me and I can elaborate on this more at a later point in time. But continuing up from the heart chakra, we got the communication.
There you go.
And that is blue. So one of the things I love.
That's the G note.
That's the G note. And communication is when we're really being authentic. We're communicating openly and honestly with ourselves and with others and with love. Because love is the key. It's the ultimate. The rose vibration, rose water, it's all tied in with the heart chakra.
Beautiful. So
for somebody that's wanting to open up their heart chakra, maybe somebody had a loss in their life, a family member, or they had a breakup or something. A loss can be a job, and it can really be heartfelt. You know, so to let yourself heal, you can use that G note. You can use the feeling of the G communication to communicate. It's going to be okay.
Yeah.
You know, it might take you all day, every day, to allow yourself to feel that pain. Don't suppress it. Use these things like the color, the G note. I love turquoise because it is heartfelt communication, and I wear a lot of turquoise.
I love it. I noticed that. It's beautiful. Yeah.
Thank you. And when we talk with self-love to ourselves, we're kinder to ourselves, and we can pause.
Yep.
Part of loving ourselves is pausing in our communication.
And don't you notice when you're working on being kind to yourself, you're just naturally kind to others?
It's so much easier. It is.
Yeah.
You know, and then we can remember when we're from that heart space and that communication space of love that, you know, they probably want what we want. We all want to be loved. And even if they're not with us, if they've gone in heaven, they're looking over us. And so we can be open through our communication chakra, our love chakra, our intuition chakra to receive that communication with our loved ones.
That's good.
And we keep going up. So now we're at A, which is the third eye, which many people know the symbol of the third eye. And that is very cosmic. The last two are very cosmic. Not to take away from the other ones, in order to have your third eye open, you have to have these others open. And that's why it's good going back to that C, because this to open by itself, no, it takes all of these to be open. And to be open to that divine. And then, of course, like the white light and the violet light, you know, with B.
Coming out of the seventh.
Coming out of the seventh. And being in total divine connection. And when we're in total divine connection, it is something that actually you want to be careful with, because this is when the Kundalini rises too fast, there's a fine line with it because you are actually hearing from the divine. You can actually, the sound might be way out for some people, but you can, I actually had heard people's thoughts.
Oh, wow.
And the reason why I say a fine line is because some people can go too fast and they get scared, and then it could be like you don't want to go into a borderline schizophrenia type of situation. Excuse me.
Crazy. What
I
happened?
know. Is this really going on? And somebody might think you're crazy, so be careful who you talk to. You know, if you're getting that. So again, if this is happening to you, you may have already had the skills. You may be a person that have had books that might be prepared for this, to know how to work with that and know how to, so to speak, shut it off.
Yeah.
A friend of mine is an intuitive that does work, and she said, you know, not everybody can do it. And she said it took a lot of work for her to know when to shut that off. Otherwise, you can be getting a lot of information, too much information, and not really being in your own space, in your own life.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, no, I've had friends that have the psychic ability that have said there has to be times when it's just like, turn it off, stop, I need to go to sleep, or, you know, whatever that is.
Right, so finding techniques and discipline for yourself to do that. One of the techniques that I learned from Michael Tamura as a volunteer, I was his assistant, Celebrate Your Life. We did a grounding meditation that was bringing it back down. So, okay, we want to open up those chakras, but then you want to bring that back down and bring that to the earth. And that is very important to do those grounding exercises and working with that root chakra. And so when I'm doing my guided meditations, that's why I use the sea.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Because we always want to stay grounded. We can bring out the subconscious. We can listen to what's coming from the heavens, but then we have to be grounded to get into everyday life, to execute the steps that we need, that we want to do to be the server, you know, for others.
So good. So, I love that. That is something I have not learned yet. You know, the chakras are new to me, and then I found out there was a color with them, and then I found out there was a tone with them. Now I'm finding out there's a musical note with it, so that's beautiful. So I don't want to forget to give presents to some of your artwork.
Oh, thank you so much.
You have this beautiful piece that's been sitting here in the front. You have a smaller version over here. Please tell me about the artwork you do as we're around in third coming towards home.
Sure. This is a digital print of the original. The original is called Chakra Goddess. And you can see there's the different chakras there. And when I did this piece, it was an acrylic paint. There are oil paints and acrylics. I prefer to use acrylic because they don't smell and they're water soluble. And it was on canvas. And when I did this piece, I prayed that the opening of, I was actually doing it like a guided meditation. I also put essential oils in there, which essential oils have a very high vibration, megahertz wise, higher than many foods. Oh, wow. And when we are in an ultimate state of health, we are at a high frequency vibration. And so when you can literally look at this as a waking meditation for each chakra. And I put it in a smaller frame. Some people like to use small frames in their homes. The original was a little bit smaller than this, but this again is another print here, and this is a larger print. So you could always get even a smaller version. Some people like the 5x7 to have it in their kitchen. Initially, it was for myself to pray love. And when I prayed love, I literally, every stroke, I prayed love. And when I did each chakra, I envisioned the chakras opening up and the fan blades opening up easily and smoothly, not in a rushed panic kind of mode. Because then you're getting that fight or flight kind of thing. And you don't want to go too fast with your Kundalini. You want it to be at ease, each chakra opening up. And then you open up your solar plexus. And then you open up your heart chakra, your throat chakra, your third eye. And then, of course, our divine ultimate. And this can be done as often as an individual wants to look at it. Even as a reminder to allow yourself to feel throughout the day. So someone might not need to sit there and actually do each step, as I just said, but you can just glance at it, if not my image. But I do have this image here on I'm going to do a little quick plug here. On Facebook, I have Melu Art, and it's on there. And so I'm open to people printing it out because I want this to be something
So if
that
somebody wants to purchase this from you, do
they
you
can
have
purchase it from me.
Yeah.
They can get a hold of me.
That's great.
And I have my website on my coaching website.
Get presence to your website.
Sure, thank you. It's the coachmarygodfrey.com, so they can get a hold of me there. I also do, I'm getting into my plug-in here, but I don't know if that's a little too soon for this.
No,
Is that
what
okay?
you're supposed to do.
Thank you.
Please tell people how they can get a hold of you, Mary.
Thank you. So they can obviously get a hold of me through the website, or they can call me on my phone or text me, and they can reach me through Facebook because I have various Facebook pages. I have the Melu Art. I have Mary Godfrey Music, which I tend to post a lot of my, if I'm working with an individual collaborating, I might put it on there, or some of my older stuff from the 80s because people find that it's fun to look at. Then I have a band. I have the Lotus Band is on Facebook. So we have a separate page. And I do teach art in my home.
Mm-hmm.
As far as doing Reiki or healing type sessions, I'm working with the Purple Studio is on Main and Mesa, with Ann Cabano. I've been involved with Ann. I met her originally through Sweha. And then she was doing several conferences with the Just Be Love Project. And one of them was on sexual assault and trafficking. And there's a big tie with trafficking to sexual assaults. And because I had a history of that, and I felt strong to be involved with something that now because of my own healing and to be an advocate for awareness, I reached out to Ann. So I've been working with her on her events, as well as I'm going to be doing some up-and-coming workshops with To Love What You Have and Get What You Want, which is written by, oh my gosh, I forgot his name. He wrote the book that Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus. And this book was so instrumental for me in my healing. He talks about the love banks. So I don't want to talk about too much about it, but we have different love banks in our whole being, in our life, in different areas of our life. And filling all of those love banks are important to have a well-rounded, balanced place in life for ourselves. And so I'm going to be having that workshop at the Purple Studio, and that's upstairs from the Salt Crystal shop down on Main and Mesa, which are great for me because I'm in Mesa. I do coaching in my home, and I do coaching online as well as on the phone. And it's a little different because you don't see the person in person. You can't feel them, but you can get great moments and clarity from doing an on-call type of a phone session.
Yeah, there's no reason someone can't reach out to you and have a conversation on phone or however, so that's wonderful. And then this piece?
This piece, this is called Open Your Heart. And again, I mentioned about feeling love in the heart. And in Chinese medicine, the lungs and the heart are associated with grief and sadness. And so in my own personal journey, I painted a lot of hearts. I still paint hearts to this day, and I draw hearts to just resonate openness, peace. When you're holding a baby and you're going, oh, this feels so good. You know, that's that love feeling that you want to have for yourself and for others. And we get caught up in all our things that we want to do. We're taught to be achievers and taking the time to love ourselves. So that's why I love hearts. When I teach, it depends on what type of teaching I'm doing. I have a program called Painting Peace with Acrylics that I do, and that's for adults. That starts with listening to some meditative music, doing some grounding, some deep breathing, and a short prayer that I do. And then I invite each person to think of that warm and fuzzy and find that feeling, and then that's painted. So every painting is different. Where I come in is I show them how to use the brushes, I show them how to mix the color, and I encourage that space for letting that come out. And then that's a vision board.
Yeah.
This is a vision board. Any piece of art can be a vision board. And it's fun. I've done vision board workshops. I've led them, I've facilitated them, I do that. But you know, you can use anything for a vision board. And you can use postcards as like a mantra or manifestation in that. But having something beautiful to look at is wonderful. And so for anyone that wants to open up their heart even more, you might not have pain in your heart, you might be grounded, you might be feeling really successful. We can always open up a little more of that love and send it out a little more to the others. When I worked at the airport, I worked for Delta Airlines at the airport, and I started in Boston, and then I transferred here to be near family. And This one coworker of mine, she just kept talking, oh, I'm so lonely. I have no love. In between the lines.
Sure.
You know, we had a little, we did actually have a moment where we could stand there and talk and chat. So I always carried Rose little baby stones in my pocket.
Oh, wow.
And so one day I just said, can you do an exercise for me? She said, what? I said, no, you have to do it. She said, okay. So I said, open your hand. Open your hand. I wish I don't have a rose for you right now. I should have brought one.
Yeah.
And I said, would you say, I send and release love out to the universe every day. At least, let's do it 3 times right now. I send and receive love out to the universe. Can you say that?
I send and receive love out to the universe.
I send and receive love out to the universe. I send and receive love out to the universe. So she said, yes, I'll do that. Okay. So it wasn't even a week later. I hadn't seen her. And then I was doing my, jobs and assignments of whatever I was to do at the airport. She is like, came up to me. Oh my gosh, you're not going to believe it. I met someone and I feel like he's so in line with my values.
Wow.
I said, you're kidding. She was so nice to everybody at the ticket counter. I couldn't believe it was like a different person. I was so happy for her. And she said, you did it. I said, I didn't do it.
Yeah.
You did it. A, she made the commitment. B, she did the discipline. C, she actively said it. It's like the discipline. Yeah. And then
put the action
she got
to it.
the results.
Yeah, that's
she found it. I not only had her so happy, then I had several.
Yeah.
I kept feeling a tap on my shoulder. Hey, can you share it with me?
Sure, I want to know.
I want to know. I want to do that.
That's beautiful.
And it went on for a couple months, actually. And it was just another testimony of seeing somebody put they had that little hope. They had faith. They had conviction.
Yeah.
They set it into action.
Yeah.
And boom.
That's good.
And that's what can happen when we have an intention, those steps. And it's the action though. You have to have the commitment. Yeah. You have to have the discipline.
Yeah. I love it.
And that's where I come in as a coach in accountability.
No, I love it. You are great at giving presence to that. And so I love that.
Thank you.
As we are ending, I like to give presence for the listener and the viewer there's one thing you want to make sure people take away from today's episode. It's this one thing. So give presence to that and let us know, what is that thing that's really important to make sure we take away?
Sure. Okay, what I'd like to share is if you or a family member has a health challenge or a mental health challenge, first off, know that they don't call it a medicine for no reason. Okay. Secondly, there are many holistic things that can be utilized out there. There are service providers like myself. Open up yourself to ideas. But first and foremost, take time to love yourself. Love is the key to healing, and everybody has a different way to love themselves. So you can have a million books in your bookshelf, but if you don't do those exercises, you're not going to see the results. Find a way to discipline yourself, to love yourself, to do the things you need to do. If you need to raise your vibration, if you're not feeling well, physically or emotionally, those megahertz are down. They're actually megahertz. So find ways. Watch a funny movie. Go visit a friend. Work at a food bank. Oh my gosh. I was so humbled. You will be so humbled if you're having any struggle in life. And if you're not, up the ante. Get a coach. Take it to the next level.
Brilliant. Mary, thanks for being here.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for giving presence to your work. I love creativity, clarity, cadence. I love that you've given presence to that. So
thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
High five.
I'm David Marsh, and you've been watching Exploring the Human Journey on YouTube as a video and listening as a podcast. If you would like to help continue the conversation, please consider supporting us by visiting patreon.com, where you can support us on a monthly basis and get extra bonus content. For as little as $1 a month, you can make this show sustainable and help continue spiritual consciousness. You can also help by following us on Facebook and Instagram. For more information about the show, find us online at exploringthehumanjourney.com.